People often ask who started the war, but very few stop to ask what started the war inside of me. When the world erupts in conflict, it's tempting to point our attention outward. We look to borders, to governments, to politics, to history, but we forget to look in the one place that holds the key to all conflict, our own consciousness. Before nations rise against each other, before words are spoken, before weapons are drawn, there is a thought that is unexamined, a thought that becomes a belief that grows into a conviction, and that conviction, if left unchecked, becomes the fuel for destruction. If you truly want to understand war, do not look to the sky, look into the mirror. What you see on the surface of global events is just a reflection, an outward projection of the wars that individuals are fighting inside themselves every day. The greatest war you will ever face is not with another person. It is not with your neighbor, not with another religion, not with another ideology. The greatest war you will ever face is the one you fight inside your own mind. It is the war between who you are and who you pretend to be. It is the war between your higher self and your ego, between stillness and reaction, between purpose and distraction. Every single morning, without realizing it, you awaken onto a battlefield. But unlike traditional battlefields, this one has no warning signs, no generals, no flags. It is silent, it is subtle, it is within. The mind is both your best friend and your greatest enemy, and if you do not understand how it works, if you do not train it, it will work against you. The untrained mind jumps from one thought to another like a monkey swinging through the trees, never still, never calm, never at peace. It reacts to every insult, every opinion, every fear. It gets offended easily, it judges, it wants to be right. It wants to be first, it wants to be safe. But at the same time it wants to be noticed, to be praised, to be in control. This inner noise creates the conditions for chaos in your outer life. You argue with your loved ones, not because of them, but because of your own mental noise. You fight the world not because it is attacking you, but because you are not at peace with yourself. And this is the truth many refuse to see. They say the world is violent, but is the world violent? Or is it that you carry violence in your heart and see it reflected everywhere you look? When you learn to still your mind, when you become aware of your thoughts without becoming trapped by them, something begins to change. You no longer react, you begin to respond. You begin to observe instead of judge. You see your anger rise, but you do not feed it. You feel your fear, but you do not become it. This is the beginning of real power, not over others, but over yourself. And that, my friend, is the first and most important victory. The man who conquers others is strong, but the man who conquers himself is truly powerful. The question is not whether war exists. The question is, do you know how to stop it inside of you? When two countries go to war, they do not do so because of geography. They do so because of unresolved pain, history, fear, pride. It is the same with people. You lash out at your partner because of something unresolved inside of you. You blame your boss because you do not know how to handle rejection. You hate someone else because they remind you of a part of yourself you have not yet accepted. The war outside always begins with war within. Look around you. The modern world has become a place where many people are constantly offended, always defensive, always ready to fight, on social media, in politics, in conversation. Everyone wants to be right, no one wants to be silent. Everyone is trying to win, but few ask what they are losing in the process. Peace of mind, compassion, perspective, the ability to truly listen. These are the first casualties of an untrained mind. This is why self-discipline is not just a practice, it is a necessity. If you do not learn to rule your thoughts will rule your life. If you do not silence the mind will become your master. And when the mind is your master, your life becomes chaos, no matter how good it may look on the outside. This is why in the monastery we begin not with the world, but with the breath. The breath is the bridge between your body and your mind. When the mind begins to race, we return to the breath. When the heart begins to react, we return to the breath. When the world begins to burn, we return to the breath. Why? Because the breath is always here. It is always now. It is not in the past, not in the future. It grounds you in the present. And only in the present can peace exist. War lives in the memory of what was done to you. War lives in the fear of what might happen. But peace only lives here, in this breath, in this moment. When you master the breath, you master your attention. When you master your attention, you master your life. You cannot change the world, but you can change how you respond to it. You cannot control what others do, but you can control how much power you give to what they do. You cannot eliminate conflict, but you can choose whether or not you become it. This is the real battle. Not against Iran, not against Israel, but against the part of you that always needs to prove something. Against the part that wants revenge, against the part that wants power, praise, position. That part of you, if not understood, will lead you down the path of destruction. Slowly, quietly, invisibly. It will corrupt your choices. It will poison your relationships. It will turn your home into a battlefield, not with weapons, but with words, not with explosions, but with silence, not with death, but with distance. So what is the solution? Not escape, not withdrawal, but awareness. Sit with yourself in silence. Observe your thoughts as if they are clouds passing across the sky. Do not judge them, do not fear them, just watch. With practice, the clouds begin to thin, the storms begin to settle, and what remains is clarity, stillness, wisdom. From that place you no longer react, you respond. You no longer fight the world, you begin to heal it by first healing yourself. This is why ancient warriors did not train only in combat, they trained in silence, in stillness, in meditation. Because they knew, the most dangerous man is not the one who fights, but the one who no longer needs to. He has already won the war that matters most, the one inside. He carries no anger, he holds no grudge, he walks with presence, he listens with depth, he speaks with truth, and he does not allow the noise of the world to drown out the wisdom of his soul. If you want to make a difference in the world, do not start by shouting, start by listening. Do not start by accusing, start by understanding. Do not start by blaming, start by transforming. Your family is watching, your children are watching. The world needs examples of strength without aggression, of clarity without arrogance, of conviction without cruelty, and that begins with you. There will always be conflict in the world, but there does not always have to be conflict in your mind. The chaos may surround you, but it does not need to enter you. Like a mountain in the storm, you can remain unmoved. Like a candle in the dark, you can remain lit, but only if you stop feeding the war inside. The real war is not between Iran and Israel. The real war is not between East and West. The real war is not between religion and science or politics and philosophy. The real war is between presence and distraction, between awareness and reactivity, between discipline and indulgence. And that war you can win right here, right now, not with noise, but with stillness, not with force, but with attention, not with anger, but with understanding. This is your mission, this is your responsibility. The world is what it is, but your mind can become a sanctuary. Your life can become a teaching. Your breath can become a weapon for peace. But you must choose. Every thought, every moment, every breath, you must choose. Will I fight myself, or will I free myself? This is the real war, and it is one you were born to win. If your mind is not still, the world will never be. People often cry out for peace, for harmony, for an end to suffering. Yet the very people who cry the loudest are often the ones carrying the most unrest in their hearts. It is a paradox of humanity. Everyone wants a peaceful world, but few have a peaceful mind. We look for balance in the world outside, but we do not seek it in the world within. We want leaders to be calm and wise, yet we do not govern our own impulses. We ask others to stop fighting, yet we continue to battle our own thoughts, our own emotions, and even our own reflection. How can the world ever be at peace if we ourselves are not? A mind at war, what does that look like? It is a mind constantly reacting, judging, accusing, defending. A mind that feels it must always be right, always be heard, always be first. It is a mind that interprets disagreement as disrespect, silence as attack, difference as threat. Such a mind is in constant turmoil, and from that place, no real peace can emerge. You cannot plant seeds in burning soil. You cannot build harmony on top of conflict. You cannot raise a calm society with minds that are storming within. The teachings of the Shaolin Temple have always made this very clear. The outside is merely a reflection of the inside. When the inside is in conflict, the outside becomes chaotic. When the inside is in harmony, the outside begins to align. But to see this, one must develop the ability to observe not others but oneself, to see clearly the nature of one's own thoughts, without justification, without escape, without running, because it is much easier to blame the world than to face one's own fire. It is much easier to say they are wrong than to say I am in conflict. This is why true warriors are not arrogant. They are humble because they know how hard it is to face oneself. They know that the real battle is not with others, but with their own lower nature. And they have chosen to face it every single day. Think about it. How can someone who is restless create rest? How can someone who is angry bring peace? How can someone who is reactive teach patience? They cannot. They may speak of peace, they may chant for unity, but their vibration is one of war. Their energy is conflict. Their words may sound sweet, but their mind is divided, and what is divided cannot lead others to wholeness. This is why discipline is not punishment, it is preparation. It prepares your mind to stay steady when everything else is shaking. It trains you to remain calm when your emotions scream to explode. It teaches you to respond with wisdom rather than react with pain. It allows you to choose presence over ego, awareness over habit, love over fear. But without this training, you are at the mercy of your mind. And a mind at war will infect everything you touch. Relationships fall apart not because of words alone, but because of the energy behind them. Words spoken from a restless mind carry poison. A simple sentence can break trust when it is born from bitterness. Entire nations are moved to war not just because of events, but because of narratives fueled by fear, by past wounds, by pride. In every war, before the first bullet is fired, the first casualty is peace of mind. And this is true not just between countries but within every person who carries a grudge, who cannot forgive, who refuses to let go. They walk through life burning from within and then wonder why everything around them turns to ash. If you truly want to change the world, begin by cooling the fire within yourself, because a calm mind radiates peace into every space it enters. A calm mind speaks less, listens more, understands deeper. A calm mind does not seek domination, it seeks truth. It does not aim to win, it aims to connect. It does not separate, it unites. This is the energy that transforms. This is the seed of peace. Not strategy, not force, but a steady mind. And here is the greatest challenge. The world will constantly try to pull you into its storm, into its noise, into its panic. It will tempt you to react, to retaliate, to participate in its drama. You will be tested, your ego will be provoked, you will be misunderstood. People will speak without knowing you. They will judge without asking. They will project their inner war onto your stillness. And in those moments you will feel the urge to fight back, not with fists, but with words, with tone, with silence, sharpened like a blade. But if you react, you become part of the war. If you remain grounded, you rise above it. It is in these moments that your training is tested, because anyone can be peaceful when everything is calm, but to remain centered when everything around you is spinning, that is mastery. To hold your breath steady while the world holds its breath in fear, that is strength. To speak with clarity when everyone else is screaming, that is wisdom. And to offer stillness in a world addicted to noise, that is leadership. We have forgotten the power of presence. In a world of chaos, the man who is calm is a mountain. In a world of panic, the woman who is still is a lighthouse. They do not need to speak loudly because their energy speaks for them. They do not need to win arguments because their silence is stronger than noise. They do not need to react because their peace is already the highest response. This is why spiritual practice is not luxury, it is survival. Meditation is not an escape, it is resistance. It is how you refuse to become part of the madness. It is how you remember who you are beneath the programming. Every time you return to your breath, you reclaim a part of your mind. Every time you observe instead of react, you choose peace over war. Every time you forgive instead of attack, you step out of the cycle of conflict. And this is the revolution the world truly needs. Not another army, but an army of awakened minds. But awakening is not easy. It requires honesty. You must be willing to look at the places where you are still reactive, still wounded, still driven by fear. You must be willing to sit with discomfort, not run from it. You must be willing to question your beliefs, even the ones that make you feel safe, especially the ones that make you feel superior. Because superiority is just insecurity in disguise. And where there is insecurity, there is always conflict. A mind that needs to prove itself will always be at war. A mind that knows itself has no need to conquer anything. When you realize that the peace you seek is already within you, everything changes. You no longer try to force the world into alignment. You simply align yourself. You no longer need to fix everything. You simply remain whole. You no longer chase silence. You become it. And in that becoming, you become a mirror. Others see your stillness, and it reminds them of their own. Your presence becomes a permission slip for others to return home to themselves. This is the power of one mind at peace. It shifts the frequency of the room. It interrupts the vibration of conflict. It creates a doorway for transformation. But this cannot be faked. It cannot be pretended. It must be cultivated, breath by breath, choice by choice, moment by moment. It must be lived, not spoken about. So if you truly wish to be a bringer of peace, do not shout for the world to calm down. Calm yourself. Do not demand that others change. Embody the change. Do not preach unity. Become the one who unites. Let your actions be your sermon. Let your stillness be your statement. Let your breath be your revolution. Because in the end, it is not your opinions that change the world. It is your energy. And your energy is a reflection of your mind. So train your mind, guard your mind, cleanse your mind, still your mind. Because a mind at war can build nothing lasting, but a mind at peace, it becomes the ground upon which everything good can grow. The tree that bears poisonous fruit does not grow from nowhere. It rises from the soil, from the seed planted deep beneath the surface. The fruit may be visible, the branches may be heavy with destruction, but the cause, what gave birth to this tree, is hidden underneath. You can cut the branches, you can remove the fruit, but unless you remove the root, it will grow back again. Conflict is the same. The wars of the world are only the surface. The violence we see, the arguments we hear, the division we feel, these are only symptoms. They are the fruits of an ancient tree. If we truly want to end the cycle, we must stop treating symptoms and begin to search for the seed. When you look at a conflict, do not ask only what happened. Ask instead, why did it begin? What gave it life? What nourished it in silence? What pain is hiding behind the explosion? This is the root. And until we are brave enough to search for it, the conflict will continue to return in different names, different forms, different faces. But it will always be the same energy: fear, pain, pride, illusion, separation. What happens in the world is no different than what happens in your own heart. You say something you regret, you lash out, you argue, and later you feel guilt, sadness, confusion. You say to yourself, I didn't mean that. And yet you did say it. Why? Because something inside of you was triggered, something deep. Maybe a wound from childhood, a fear of being rejected, a belief that you are not enough. These are the roots of personal conflict. And unless you explore them, you will repeat the same patterns again and again. You will fight with different people, but it will always feel like the same battle. The pain will return in disguise, and the root will keep growing in the darkness. This is why self-awareness is not a luxury, it is essential. You must know your inner landscape. You must walk into your own shadows. You must sit with the parts of you that are not beautiful, the jealous part, the angry part, the insecure part, not to feed them, but to understand them, because only through understanding can you transform. Only through deep seeing can you uproot. When you understand why you react, why you hurt, why you judge, you stop blaming others for your pain. You take responsibility. And that moment when you say, I am responsible for my inner state, that is the moment the real healing begins. Now imagine what would happen if entire nations approached conflict this way. Imagine if instead of reacting to an attack they asked, what is the pain that led to this? What is the story that has never been heard? What is the fear that has never been named? You see, every war has a story, and every story has a wound, and behind every wound is a human being, breathing, bleeding, wanting to be seen. But as long as we only look at headlines and not at hearts, we will never understand the root. We are trained to analyze, to argue, to judge. But rarely are we trained to listen. Not just to what is said, but to what is not said. The silence behind the anger, the sadness behind the pride, the desperation behind the violence. These are the roots. And when you understand this, your whole perspective changes. You no longer ask, how can I win? You ask, how can I understand? You no longer think in terms of enemy and ally. You think in terms of wounded and healed, lost and found, sleeping and awakened. You cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. A mind filled with judgment cannot bring peace. A heart filled with vengeance cannot forgive. And yet, this is what we try to do. We want change, but we do not want to change ourselves. We want to end war, but we still carry war inside us. We say this must end while still feeding our anger every day, through our thoughts, through our words, through our choices. Every time you feed the illusion that others are less than you feed the root of conflict. Every time you deny someone their humanity, you nourish the seed of division. Every time you close your heart to understanding, you add water to the tree of destruction. This is not a call to weakness. This is not about being passive. It is about being wise. A wise man sees beyond the surface. He looks through the mask into the eyes. He listens not just with ears but with silence. He does not mistake the symptom for the cause. He does not waste energy on the leaves when the root is what gives them life. This is true strategy. This is true mastery. In the Shaolin way, we are taught to slow down, to breathe before reacting, to feel before deciding, because the root of every conflict starts in the space between stimulus and response. In that tiny moment, you either act from your training or from your trauma. You either act from your awareness or from your wound. You either repeat the pattern or you break it. And breaking it is the hardest thing you will ever do. It feels like death, it feels like surrender, it feels like weakness. But it is none of those. It is strength, it is clarity, it is freedom. Because when you refuse to react blindly, you reclaim your power. You say to your past, you do not own me. You say to your pain, you do not lead me. You say to the world, I will not add to the fire. I will become the water. And in becoming the water, you begin to see differently. You see that conflict is not the enemy, it is the messenger. It comes to show you what has not yet healed. It comes to illuminate what has been ignored. It comes to offer you a chance, not to dominate, but to awaken. The anger shows you the pain shows you the fear shows you the attachment, and the attachment shows you the illusion. When you follow this chain deep into yourself, you arrive at the root. And when you see the root clearly, it loses its grip. The tree begins to wither, the fruit becomes bitter, the cycle ends. But it takes courage to go there, it takes discipline, it takes humility. The ego does not want to look at roots, it wants to point fingers, it wants to be right, it wants to stay above the surface, it wants to win. But the soul, it wants to heal, it wants to unify, it wants to dissolve the illusion of separation. It wants to return home. And home is not out there, it is not in the victory, it is not in the control, it is in the silence, it is in the stillness beneath the noise. It is in the truth behind the mask. It is in the moment you stop pretending and simply see what is. Every human being is a garden, and every garden grows what it is fed. If you feed it fear, you will grow thorns. If you feed it love, you will grow peace. If you feed it resentment, you will grow distance. If you feed it understanding, you will grow connection. This is why you must be vigilant. Guard the garden of your mind. Protect the soil of your heart. Do not let old pain plant seeds in your future. Do not let ancient stories take root in your present. Be aware of what you believe. Be aware of what you repeat. Be aware of what you protect, because sometimes we defend the very thing that is poisoning us. You cannot end what you do not understand, and you cannot understand what you do not face. So turn inward, not to escape the world, but to finally meet it, because the world is not out there. The world is here, in your breath, in your thoughts, in your choices. And every time you choose awareness over reaction, you become the medicine. You become the answer. You become the root of peace.